Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Digital Collective. I'm your host, James Hicks from Hicks New Media. And on this show, we focus on the people, the platforms, and the tools that are making positive strides within the technology sector today. My guest today is the one and only Dr. Chris Stone, right? He is the founder of Cast Ahead, where he thrives on enabling driven entrepreneurs, influencers, thought leaders, and enterprises to express their story and elevate their reach. He is a content creator himself, everything from consulting, coaching, podcasting, and being a pioneer in the digital live selling space with his award winning show, Dealcasters, that he co hosts with Mr. Jim Fuse. Chris has seen it all in the creative space. With over 2 decades of experience at Sony to standing on the stage at many of the top creator economy conferences. Today, I really want to pick his brain, talk a little bit about how we as creators can leverage this new advent of artificial intelligence. Are there some best practices? Are there some thought patterns? How we can integrate it into our workflow? With that being said, let's go ahead and get into it, y'all. Ladies and gentlemen, hold on your horses. Look right here. I got Chris Stone in the building, and the color scheme that you got there. You got my hex. Did I give you my hex code 20557B? Because listen, the blue is
No,
hidden.
the artificial intelligence identified it, and it just made the graphics for me. I didn't have to do anything.
Man.
It's an easy
My
button.
goodness.
You know how that is.
You're a bad man. You're a bad man.
What's going on, sir? This is man. I've been looking forward to this ever since I found the first available slot on there, and I said, "Oh, I get to go before Rob Belasabas today." Okay, cool.
I believe that alone.
I got to open for him. He's like,
that's
I'm the opener. He's like Def Leppard. I'm like the local band.
Oh, I love that. There you go. You didn't know. I spent 10 years working for Bill Graham Presents. I did a little concert promotion myself. So
really?
I've stood on stage and behind stage with a lot of folks back in the late 90s, early 2000s. So we can talk about that as well. Yeah.
You were the guy that was in the green room pulling out the brown M&Ms for Van Halen before they went into the green room. Is that how that worked?
You know about that, huh? Okay. I've done some things.
I know where some bodies are hidden.
I know where some bodies. I'm a guy who I gave oxygen to Mr. Steven Tyler a couple of times. Well, again, we can pivot and go into that discussion if you want to.
You know I want to.
It's all good. It's all good. Listen, let's get focused, man. We are streaming everywhere because this is an important topic. You're an important man, and I really want to be cognizant of your time because I know you got something to do. I know you probably have another show, another stream, something to build, sell, whatever the case may be. But I always like to have folks tell their origin story as well. I gave the 35,000 foot level kind of pitch, so to speak. But could you tell people, my audience, if they don't know who Chris Stone is, if you could tell them who you are?
Yeah, absolutely. Such an honor to be on your show, man. My quick origin story was I started in the music business 32 years ago. Before digital music was a gleam in Clive Davis's eye, I was marketing CDs, vinyl, and cassettes to a thing called a record store throughout the Southeast. And I went to school in Nashville to study the music business while I was in bands. And while I was in bands, I was the bass player. And because I was the bass player and I dabbled in some writing, and the other guys were rock stars. Drummers were weird, singers, guitarists. They usually had everything to do with the music and getting the women and such. So I ended up being the guy that was hanging the flyers, making the T-shirts, booking the interviews at college radio stations, and I got pretty good at it, and I really liked to do it, and so much so that I started doing it for other bands. And BMG, which became Sony, eventually decided that they wanted to hire me to do that. So I did that starting in Nashville. Then chopped all my hair off, grew up a little bit, got a big gig with Sony, eventually started doing mobile business when ringtones were a thing before smartphone penetration came about, and then pivoted over to the streaming business, ran the streaming business for Sony Music for a number of years. And knowing the way the music business is, as you know, James, it was doing this, and I knew at some point I had to get to either New York or LA or be a
Mm,
father and a husband. And I chose the latter and stayed
nice.
here in Atlanta and developed my own business called Cast Ahead, where we work with driven entrepreneurs like yourself who may not want to know how all the stuff works in the background. But what I love to do is to make other people look and sound their best. So I give them a show. That's what we do.
I love it, man. Listen, I appreciate that. And that, like I said, you're a busy man, but you're out there providing value. And I think, with the conversation that we're going to have today, I think it's a great next step and next iteration, right? In terms of how you work with your clients and work with either current and or future clients, because this advent of AI, and I say advent because I think it's new to the consumer industry, but me being in enterprise technology, I've seen this before. I mean, I
Oh,
saw
yeah.
this already. So this isn't anything new to folks who are in the enterprise technology field. But now that it's becoming so prominent, again, it's on these TVs, it's on CNBC, it's on ABC and things like that. So you're hearing about it every single day of how it's progressing seemingly fast. Let's talk about it from the content creator perspective. Let's talk about it from an entrepreneur perspective. And I've actually got a poll out there on the YouTube channel asking folks if they're already leveraging AI, if they plan to in the future, or if they're just going to stay away from it. Talked about it from your perspective, from Dealcasters and from Cast Ahead. Are you actually leveraging anything within the AI field?
Yes, we've been doing it for years. And I think it's one of those things where if you use it and leverage it for maybe 90% of what you're going to do, take the other 10% and bring it home. And one of the
Mm,
things that we've used for a number of years, ever since this thing was sort of created, was Lately. It's
mm,
lately.ai.
mm,
And that was something where you could just take a huge video and throw it in. And of course, their pitch is, we'll take you to third base. You take it home with your
right.
human voice, your brand, and what you want to do with it. All of these algorithms are just fantastic, right? Everybody, all these shiny objects flying around. There's just like this huge long list. And I know we saw this thing on LinkedIn where you posted it and then Doc threw this other thing in
Right.
that it was supposedly top secret link. Well,
Well,
shockingly, that was not a
too
top
late. I'm gonna
secret
share
thing.
it. It's going to be in the
Right.
description in a minute. But yeah.
Right. And I think everyone now is so leaning into it because it's gotten so good. And it
Yeah.
really has. And I think I don't know about you, but the first time I opened up ChatGPT, I had some cautious pessimism. I've seen too many of these things where they slapped an AI sticker on it and you can go down the road and you're like, am I spending more time making this than if I
Interesting.
just like hammered out something?
Yeah.
But once I opened up Chat GPT, it was like, okay, for the first time in a long time, this is exciting. This is something that really has an opportunity for us if we utilize it properly
Yeah.
and we do it in the right context. We don't look at it as an easy button. We don't look at it as just rubber stamping something. We look at content creation as in the world of AI as more of content curation. Let's take these
Good
things,
point. Okay.
let's see what these things can do, and let's curate something. Everything you see for Dealcasters came from something else. I didn't sit down and scribble out the headphone logo and the font and the colors and things like that. I was plopping stuff into things like Canva and Adobe and all of these things until I finally kind of like something kind of came out of the ether. And then I said, well, let's put this here. What if we did this? What if we did this? What if you pull in this? And it's
Yeah.
ever evolving. And we're constantly looking at it. And it's about curating those things. It's hard for me to look at it as I'm some artist or I'm some creator, more of a
Yeah.
curator than anything.
So let me ask you this, right? I mean, because again, I completely agree with you in terms of leveraging it, and there could be some ethical conversations that folks
Mm.
could have, right? You think about it right now, and the story is now you hear students are utilizing artificial intelligence to write their papers in class. So that's a big no. Again, if you're taking advantage of it as opposed to maybe using it for some high level thoughts, for some quick summaries, and then you ad lib and you bring your own perspective into it, from the entrepreneur, from the business owner, from the content creation perspective as well. Have you seen, or do you think some of these technologies, AI technologies, have an ethical issue to where someone could perceive themselves as what they're not? Right? We actually use ChatGPT, we use Perspective.ai, we use some of these other platforms, and we fabricate a new world for Chris Stone. And then when it actually comes to you having to deliver, you're not really that person. Your thoughts on maybe some of the ethical connotations of leveraging a lot of the artificial intelligences out there?
I can't really worry if someone else is going to do it.
Mm,
I think there is always going to be people that are going to do that, James. There really is. And what I can worry about is what I can control, which is how I can utilize this to further what I'm doing. I kind of look at your what you said earlier about kids in the papers. I mean, what about the calculator, right? Remember when everybody was freaking out? I mean, I'm not
I'm
that
old enough to
old,
use an
but
abacus,
no,
so
but
I don't want
but
to date myself, but okay, yeah.
when the calculator came out, when a smartphone was in everybody's pocket,
Hmm.
just because I don't know how to multiply 734 by 18, if I needed to know the answer to that to get to something that I can curate or create, why should I have let that get in the way? Let me pull it up. Let me do the math. Let me pull it. I've used spreadsheets and all of these. What do you think a spreadsheet is?
Exactly.
Is that cheating? Is that, that doesn't mean that, I feel like in your case, I think if you just take something verbatim and throw it
Mm,
out there and you don't feel bad about that, I can't help you. Right.
interesting.
I
I
feel
like
like
that.
if I were
Yeah.
to say
Mm,
right now, give me the 20 things I should talk about on creator mindset with James Hicks, it probably would give me those things and I could talk about those. But if I did that and it helped me get to where I'm at right now in this moment, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with me saying, "Oh, you know what? I didn't even think about talking about this. Now I'm going to bring this up in my conversation." Now, I didn't do that,
yeah.
but why not do that? Why not be able to do that? It's still me,
Yeah.
even though I asked for some help. I did a little Googling, did a little research, but I brought myself into the equation. And I think where
That's
it
the
is.
key right there, right? Again, because I think, and I want to make that delineation, and I don't want to assume, but so I want folks to understand that we're talking about take advantage in terms of leveraging these tools, leveraging this technology to do better, to maybe make your workflow more efficient. But you gotta throw that Chris Stone personality into it. You gotta throw that Jim Fuse, right? You have to look at this maybe as a framework and as a jumping off point, but also like Steve Worthy is saying, you can grab all the content you want from AI. You, the content creator, still has to deliver the message in your own
That's
voice.
it.
That's the
That's
key
it.
piece right there, right? That really take advantage of all this. Look at everything that's happening in the news, all the new iterations and versions, and things that are coming out for us to leverage. But don't forget that the content that you're creating has to be authentic. It has to be real, and it has to resonate with you, or else you just sound just like a robot talking to folks. So,
It's true.
uh,
And there's AI out there that detects AI, right? So
true.
and I forget the name of it, but it was on the list either you provided or Doc provided, but it was an AI detection thing. And so sometimes when you see a post from somebody that looks pretty elaborate and doesn't
It's
really
too
feel
good.
like it was
Too
them,
good.
it's like, boy, that is really good. And then you might want to copy and paste it over. Then you kind of say, well, now it doesn't say this is exactly pulled from this, that, or the other, but if it's already doing like, this looks like it might have been pulled, and this is about 70% AI, it's like, well, now are they doing that in the educational system? Are they doing it? And that's only going to get better at detecting, right? Because we're feeding that information to that. And so I just think, where's your conscience at, right? Can you be proud of something that you put out and curated
Wow.
and call it yourself? You
Yeah.
know, and that's integrity, and that's something that maybe because I'm the age that I'm at, I always look at the content and what I'm delivering as my legacy. I want to be proud after I'm dead. I want to be able to have people be affected by what I say
Mm.
and what I do now on this show today. I treat these things with importance. I treat them with integrity because I know that it could affect somebody in a positive manner later in life. And I know I'm getting real. I love to have fun too,
Well,
James. You
see,
know
you're
this,
you're a good
but this is
Michigan fan
important.
right there. See that right there, that shows the
Go
depth
blue.
and breadth of this man right here. Go Michigan. Come on now. We can talk about Harbaugh too. Let's make sure that
Let's
he has.
do it. Let's do it. We're going to turn this into a completely different show.
It's all good. It's all good. I appreciate everyone chiming in as well in the comments. Love to see you, man. Love to see you, Steve. Love to see you, Jim. Doug Lehman is saying, love what Chris
Yeah.
said about leveraging AI, but still putting creative consciousness in layman's terms. That's a good thing.
Dougie Fresh in the house.
Let me ask you this: has AI gone too far too fast? Right, there's so many different aspects, and again, I want to keep it in the context of creators and entrepreneurs and folks within technology. But from a content creation space, we can make all of these AI generated images that look something like us and then don't look anything like us. So we can be catfishing folks on our IG posts or whatever. We've got that. The textual piece, right? We can write frameworks and we can write summaries and things of that nature. There's videos as well, right? There's all of the capabilities from that perspective. Do you think it's gone too far too fast, and should there be some regulation? Should there be some type of oversight? I don't know if you've heard about Elon and a couple of other Silicon Valley entrepreneurs and CEOs saying, let's put a short moratorium on some of this rapid development so we can get our arms around this. Don't necessarily want to get into a political conversation, but again, just wondering your thoughts. Are we moving too fast in this direction, and do we have enough folks that are really saying, let's stop, pause, and make sure that we understand what we're taking advantage of?
Well, I'm not going to give any legal advice. I'm not a lawyer, but I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. And if we do want legal advice, we'll call our buddy Mitch Jackson, pull out the tin cans and string and into the metaverse and talk to him about how all this is. I think there's fear of that. There's no doubt about it. But I don't think we let that fear get a hold of us as content creators, content entrepreneurs. I feel like, again, if you're treating everything with integrity and you're looking at it and saying, you know what, I'm pulling this image from Canva and it gave me a magic presentation and it gave me some things that I probably hadn't even thought of. It helped me. And, then there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're just taking something, I think, and slapping on a t-shirt and making some money from it, I got to say, you might not want to do that until these things start getting sorted out and start falling into line, start going into, start sifting out, and we start to figure out how these things are going to get regulated. So if you're worried about it a little bit, you might want to pull back a little bit on what you're doing. And I think there's a lot of things that are being written as we're going along, right? And so I feel like, again, sort of back to sort of the integrity thing. If you need to create a podcast, and you could just take what you've already written and throw it into something, and somebody else's voice is doing a podcast, and you're okay with that, you might be okay, doing that.
Yeah.
But I just wouldn't feel okay about it. And so, I just think from a legal perspective, it can get a little scary. So if you're profiting from something you didn't create, I think that's when you need to start worrying about it.
I mean, that leads into what you were saying and what Lori is saying as well, the integrity piece and values and beliefs, and kind of what you said about the legacy you want to leave, right? Because again, we are out here doing what we do. We're shepherding community by having discussions and by being live streamers, bloggers, podcasters, entrepreneurs from a digital content creation perspective. And if the house that you have to stand on, or if the rock that you have to stand on is that you cheated, or that you didn't come up with anything unique, if you didn't bring real value to that community that you're shepherding, then why are you doing it? Right? You're definitely doing it for some adverse reasons, and that is going to be short lived. there's no longevity in those types of mindsets and those types of um, actions, right? So
Yeah.
again, I mean, I guess that really kind of is the core of everything we're talking about, right? See what's out there, understand what's out there. I mean, there are some tools out there that we use again now specific to the content creation space of being able to edit our videos very quickly, be able to take this long form 45-minute 60-minute session and cut it up into 30, 60, 90-second shorts and put it all over the world and do
Hmm.
it very quickly. Listen, we were doing that by hand 6 months ago, and that's why all my hair fell out. You know, this is well that's not okay. We don't want to get into that either. But
No,
now the
it's
world is
true.
the world is a lot easier just from that respect and leveraging that within the workflow. Talk to me a little bit about how you're. Let's get into specifics. I know you've mentioned Canva. I know you mentioned ChatGPT, but
Hmm.
how are
Hmm.
you building some of the marketing materials and some of the micro content things like that, utilizing AI within your workflow, your business, and for your constituents. Let's get into some specifics, maybe even about some platforms that you're utilizing.
Yeah. So, I think a lot, to your point, it's like if it used to be if you wanted a chicken sandwich, you had to go out and kill the chicken and
Come
pull
on
off
now,
all the
make
feathers
it plain. I'm from the
and
country. Make it plain.
now, no, listen, now you can go to the grocery store. No, wait, now you can pick up a phone and have it delivered, and you could have it scheduled, like all of those things. But no one's really thinking about that, right? And so just because I learned Final Cut Pro, and before that iMovie, and just because I learned to create music on Cakewalk Pro, which was on
Wow,
54 floppy disks that you had to load into my
five and a
Commodore
quarters, brother.
64, 5 1/4, right? Doesn't mean now, people aren't as good at creating. It's not that. It's you're implementing what you have to work with, right? I always just I always look at some of these musicians or whatever, like Trent Reznor from Nine Inch
Hmm.
Nails, and just look at all the great things that he had to work with. But like 10 years prior, everybody was just plunking on a keyboard,
Yeah.
and the way MIDI and all of those things. Well, that doesn't mean that you can't still be creative with what you have. And so to your question, I try everything that I possibly can. I looked at that list that you sent, and I try it all. I really do. And for the most part, I usually just end up cobbling together a bunch of things and say, well, this works for this. What I don't like about this, and then I keep an eye on it, because a lot of times these things get really better. Descript is a perfect example of
Yeah.
something that
Good point.
came out, and I at first poo-pooed it. I was like, this is like, the editing sucks. Like it chooses if you double up on a word, it chooses the wrong word, and it doesn't
Yeah.
sound
Remember that.
right, and
Yeah.
the way the audio kind of works. But I kept an eye on it, and I noticed they kept on updating the beta. They kept on up. You remember Ecamm when it first came out, when everybody got grandfathered in on the AppSumo or whatever, and they were the lucky ones to be able to get that
Yeah.
lifetime thing, right?
Yeah.
Now we're paying hundreds of dollars for this brilliant software that got better and got better and got better and got better. So I keep my eye on a lot of this stuff, and I cobble together a lot of different things. My favorite one that I love right now, it may not even be on this list right here, James, is called Swell. It's called
Okay.
Swell.ai. And so obviously I'm in the podcasting industry, and it's fantastic for podcasters, although you can use it for a number of other things. I'm happy to kind of, I've got that up here on my screen as well.
Well,
I
I
can
know
kind of
you
walk you
do.
through,
I'm sure you're going to do a
you know.
demo. I just so what I did just now, folks, and again, I'll have this link in the description so you can see futuretools.io, and there are some categories that you can zoom in on, and you can be more specific. So I said podcasting, um, and it lists some of the
That's a great resource. Yeah.
newer platforms and tools that are out there, and really allows you to go out and try and find and be creative in your creative endeavors, right? Find all of these different platforms. So I'll let you, I'll give you the wheels, man.
Well, there's Auphonic right there. So you've got Auphonic up
Yeah,
there up on the screen. Auphonic is
been
something,
around for a
if you're
long
not
time. Yeah,
somebody that's a great audio engineer and you just you're like, okay, I'm okay with a little echoey sound from the Zoom, or I'm okay with things here and there if we say or whatever. I don't want to go insane with my editing, but I want that podcast, that audio, to sound commensurate with everything else on Apple
yes,
Podcast. It needs
yes.
to have what's called LUFS, which is an acronym I don't think I've ever gotten right. It stands for it's basically amplitude inside of your podcast player. So you know how when you listen to podcasts and some of them are way too quiet, and then you
Yeah,
have to turn them up to listen to them, and then when you hit another one, it's like it blows your face off.
yeah.
Well, the LUFs allow you to sort of be commensurate so that you sound at the same level as Joe Rogan Experience, as everyone else on those platforms. And so Auphonic does a number of things from an artificial intelligence perspective, from, pulling out noises, from normalizing the volume between two people. So if James's voice and my voice are not, maybe he's louder because he likes to crank up his volume on his side because he's the
Well,
host.
I got the big bottom going in
Right,
mine
right,
right now,
right,
so I
right.
got a
Yeah,
little
yeah, 200 hertz. You kind of like
pretty
crank
much.
that up. That's right. And so that will normalize the people that are on your podcast, and so you don't have to get too picky and too much of a. I'm a bit of an audio nerd, but I run everything through Auphonic because I
Okay,
want to make sure that you can do things like add your podcast cover to it, because there are some web players that will import your CD cover, or not your CD cover, but your podcast cover, into players, has all the right metadata in there, has all the stuff in there. I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to podcasting stuff, but Auphonic is great. And so I use that as well. And then I guess I can
yeah. And
screen
while you pull
share
that
right
up, I
here.
mean, I guess I will say this to all the folks that are listening and watching, man. Those intricacies, that attention to detail is critical, right? And it's necessary.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong about doing what we do from a creation perspective as a side hustle or as a hobby. But when you really step and you want to rise above the noise, those are the types of conversations with yourself and the product that you're putting out that you want to make sure that you have and that you exemplify. So let me get myself off the screen so Dr. Stone can do what
Oh,
he
you're
needs to
good. I
do.
think you could still be there.
You're
Listen,
gonna kick me off my
we
own
want the
screen.
ratings to stay high. We want the
Oh
beautiful
my
people
gosh,
still on the
Lord have
screen, right?
mercy.
So we want the supermodels, in the word of Steve Worthy. We want the supermodels
Oh, don't bring
still
him
up
up.
on the screen.
He'll start heckling in the back of the
Hey, you
room.
brought him up earlier, man. No, so what this does is you get a certain amount of uploads, and you can sync up your YouTube, your podcast, or just upload any of your files. You can also have it go directly into Dropbox or any of your other things that you've got going on. But the cool thing about this is, like, so I'm going to pull up. This is a podcast I edited from Victor Antonio. He did an interview with Andrew Sykes, and so if you pull it in, it's going to give you all of this for each one of your episodes. You're going to get a full transcript where you can enter. Let me see if I can expand that out a little bit so people can read that maybe a little bit better. And so from here, you can get the SRT or the VTT file, which you can use for your transcript. Each one of the speakers is in here with a timestamp. So here's the thing that blows my mind. You can get your timestamp. So if you've got a YouTube video, obviously timestamps are critical. If you are in the YouTube land, you want to make sure your timestamps are in there. You can get that. You've got your show notes. It gives you a title that you can have a summary, all of the timestamps, all of your keywords. You can go in here and you can change it. It gives you alternate titles that you can
Wow.
use. These are all SEO optimized for this podcast. Now here's the one that will blow your mind. These are all well-written articles based on the podcast. So there's the first one here, sales requires listening, and it's about that long. So you got a blog post option here. You have different blog post options. You could use these for LinkedIn if you want to use those for LinkedIn. Now, obviously, are you going to go in here and copy it and paste it exactly? Probably not a good idea.
Right.
Right? You want to make sure it's in the voice of your client in this instance, Victor Antonio, or if it's yourself, it's in your voice, but not a bad framework to work off of. Here's the other cool thing here.
So
You can
hold on
ask
before you
it.
go
Yeah.
on. So that's not the transcript. That's actually
These These are written articles based on the podcast, based on the transcript.
Wow. Okay. That's powerful. Okay. Okay. And
And
that's okay.
it's good. That's the other thing. These are good. It's I want to say I mean they're used. They're not used verbatim, just because it's like again, I just don't. But to have something that's well written that you can kind of base something off of and kind of go, I wouldn't say listening is essential for sales success, which is what this says right here. I may say something like, y'all better listen.
There you go.
Whatever.
Like I say, put that stone into it. Put that stone into it, and that's the personality.
Right. So here I went into this thing called Swell Chat and I said, provide search engine optimized YouTube tags from this episode. I gave it that prompt and it gave me these. And then here's the other thing. If you want to, once you post this to your website, it will give you the code to allow anyone to ask this episode anything, and it will reply using ChatGPT. So if, for instance, you have this article and you take one of these articles and you post this article onto your website, and then you embed this code underneath it, ask me anything about this episode. And you can type in, say, what are 5 key takeaways from this episode? And ask it. Well, it won't answer it. So there we go. It doesn't always work well.
Hey, but other than that, I tell you what, just like Steve said, you've just sold us on the Swell AI. So I mean, the fact that it was able to pull articles and again, not just the transcript, it did the transcript, but also suggestions for blog articles, which are you can put on your SEO blog page and website and things of that nature. That right there, you had me sold there. All this other stuff is just the extra gravy on top.
It's always the sticking point, I think, James, with podcasters is the SEO and because I was like, why do I need a transcript? Why do I need to write something and they just don't understand the SEO. This gives you, again, puts you to third base. Okay, let's get it home. You're not gonna do everything for you. You can treat it like an assistant. You just, but you got to keep training it, right? And then you've got to use your own voice, and then your mind gets blown, like Podcasters Live here.
Well, he's easy, right? He's highly impressionable. He's a good man.
That's my neighbor in Alpharetta.
I gave him a hard time this morning. He was doing. We can pivot it, we can deviate as well, but yeah, he was doing a test stream this morning, and he had a little funny on air moment. So. Go back and watch the replay if he still has it up online.
He's probably pulling it down now.
Pretty much, because I gave him a hard time. Shortening that time frame, shortening that workflow, leveraging this, and
yes.
For clarity, you're utilizing this not only for yourself and for Dealcasters and for Gastad, but you're also leveraging this AI technology for some of the clients that actually work and engage with you as well.
All of my clients.
Okay.
Every single one of them. As I have somebody blowing leaves right outside my door.
I was wondering what was going on. The sound guy has all of this, pink noise going behind him. Like, what is going on?
Not supposed to be happening right now, but hey, this is live. What am I gonna do? Go out and yell at him like that new beef show on Netflix?
You saw my show last night, right? I'm over here disabling system audio, and I blow the whole.
Yeah, you had me worried about today, dude. You had me real worried. I was like, okay.
I'm not touching any buttons. I'm just doing triggers, and I'm doing scenes and overlays. I'm not doing anything else. We're on LinkedIn today, so I got to make sure I at least sit up straight and do it right. So that's the kind of.
That's right.
Everything else.
We got a button
Facebook
up.
and Twitter. So again, you were saying you are leveraging AI technology for clients and for folks who work with you, and we don't have to get into specifics. I'm just wondering again, from a business perspective, how can you and how do you maybe price that out, right? The value of the work that you're leveraging some of these tools and technologies for. I mean, are you effectively saying that X, Y, and Z company or customer person, I'm gonna use these tools to do this bit of work for you, and you're charging for that value. I would assume, but I
Yeah.
don't want to assume. And let me ask that question.
Yes, I'm trying to mute as I'm like trying to give this
It's
guy
all
the
good,
stink eye
brother.
out here to get him out of here.
I'll
But
throw some alphonic
yes,
behind it. I'll throw some crisp behind it
there we
afterwards. It's
go.
all
There we
good.
go.
Yeah,
I see how you brought that around.
yeah,
Absolutely. And here's the key. Again, it kind of goes back to the integrity thing. If I'm utilizing Swell like I'm using,
yeah.
I tell the client, because like, listen, it goes. Anybody can do their own show. Anybody can
Mm,
do their own show, right? You can do your own taxes. You can mow your own lawn, right? But I have somebody else mow my lawn and have somebody else do my taxes because
yeah.
they do a better job and they understand how. I don't care about how they do it. I don't care about any of that. I just want it done. And so I tell them up front, look, I will provide you well-written blog posts in your voice. I will give you this, that, and the other. And I give them this. This information is viewable to all my clients, and they know exactly how I do it. They don't want to know. So
Right.
most of the time they don't care, as long as they
That's
get
why
what
they're
they
hiring
get.
you, right? They're hiring you for
That's
your
right.
expertise. Yeah.
That's right. And so can you charge for this? Absolutely. Should you charge for this? I mean, that's up to you. But if it's valuable to your client, you should absolutely put a price tag on it. There's no doubt about it.
Awesome.
Like, they wouldn't have this information, they wouldn't have these blogs if it wasn't for me doing that. Just because I do pay for this service. I absolutely do that. Do they help me pay for it? You better believe they help me pay for it. And then because they're paying me to not just have the service, but to know how to do it and to make their podcast better.
There you go, right there. So it was kind of a setup question, and
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to hear either way, whatever you want to say, but that remark right there for, again, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, content creators who are out there leveling up their business. Don't be afraid to charge for the value and for your worth, right? If you're
Yes.
using technology, if you're making their life better, because again, they don't want to be in the minutia, they don't want to be in the weeds. That's why they hired you, for your skill and for your expertise, and because you know 10% more than they do, so you're the expert. Charge for that value that you're providing at the end of the day, regardless of whatever tools, platforms, frameworks, and things of that nature that you're utilizing. So I kind of set you up with that question and just wanted to see where you
You
would
did.
go. So
You
you
did. But
passed.
listen, I tell everybody this too, James. Like, listen, if you want to do it yourself, go and do that. You
Hmm.
probably would have you probably could do it and do pretty good job. But after about 6 times, you're going to quit.
Yeah.
You're going to stop and you're going to be back. You're going to be back with me, or you're just not going to do it. And the better thing to do to make your podcast better is to do this stuff,
I love it.
because this is how we build it. And so, I mean, it's a little bit of tough love, because I'm in this too. It's like setting up your podcast on YouTube, right? Most of my clients, they could give a rat
Right.
about it. They don't care. But I was like, this is something you have to do. We absolutely have to do this. If you don't, you are going to get past. Yeah, we're not really seeing it just yet in terms of like what it all really means. Is podcasts on YouTube? Are they? I know we're getting into other topics here, but it's like it aligns the same way. Like, if you're going to have a show, if you're going to have a podcast, you need to have live video, you need to have
Mm.
shorts, you need to have your podcast set up, you need to have social media, and you got to be on all fronts. You got to let everybody
Yeah.
know that this thing's happening. And if you
Yeah.
don't, then you're not going to get found. And that's the number one reason why we're doing it, is you get found so that you can drive them wherever what's the purpose of your podcast? To sell more books, to get on stage, to get booked for keynotes, to create a nonprofit, thing for your, like, whatever your mission is. You've got to get found. And so you got to be on all these fronts. But I think that's the other thing, James, back to AI. Why this thing is swelling so much is because I think a lot of people have this FOMO, this fear of missing out.
Yes. That was
And
going to be
I
one of my
just
next
feel like
questions. So
you
you're
got to
right in line.
breathe,
Go ahead.
man.
Yeah.
You got to breathe. You got to breathe. And
Mm.
man, this stuff's like, there's going to be a lot of these things, this huge list that you pulled up. A lot of them are going to be gone. They're probably already gone. Okay.
That's true.
Just dip in, use what you can use, Listen to people like James Hicks and Steve Worthy and people that know what they're talking about. And they're the people you trust. They're the humans that you trust. And they're not gonna steer you wrong. And when something screws up, they're gonna tell you about it too. It's kind of like, when Jim and I are on Dealcasters, there's a lot of brands we won't talk about. We just won't. They're trying to give it, they're fumbling over themselves to give us money.
Yes.
To give us their products. And we won't do it.
Love
and
that.
There's other companies where we own the product and we're talking about it and they're not paying us anything, because your trust is what matters. And yeah, I don't know about you, but I don't trust a robot just yet. I just don't.
Well, see, there you go. I mean, yeah, bringing it back to the conversation, and that's a good summation there, because we started out saying, are we moving too fast? Is this something? Are there ethical connotations and considerations that we need to be aware of? If we, you, Jim, Steve, right, are considered the experts, the technical advisors, subject matter, whatever the case may be, for this technology, not being afraid to charge for it, understanding that, again, we know that 10% more than the others. So we should be trying and evaluating and testing, breaking and trying to fix some of the platforms that are out there right now. We should know what's on these lists and what still is available and what's not available, because, again, these are all startups started in the garage, like a lot of other companies. But again, somebody's going to break through. Somebody's going to be the next Swell.ai, the next Descript, the next Headliner, whatever the case may be. And it is our responsibility as again, trailblazers, pioneers, whatever you want to call it, in this industry, to be able to know about that and tell folks that maybe not use this one, think about this one, but definitely take advantage of this piece of technology right here. So that's, I mean, you really succinctly brought it back into kind of the story that I wanted to tell. And then I guess my next question, kind of my final question really is, where do you think we're going in the short to midterm? Because from a technology perspective, you can never think long term. Long term is really 5 years, right? From a short and midterm, I'm saying 3 months, 6 months, a year to maybe 2 years. Where do you think, from an AI perspective within technology, for content creators and for entrepreneurs, we're going in that short and midterm?
I think short and midterm, the people that will sort of kind of, or the content curators, the content entrepreneurs that are going to sort of really, thrive, are the ones that know how to ask, the ones that know how to do the prompts, the ones that understand how to utilize this technology. Don't just open it up and just type a word, or to like, how do I make a sandwich, and give me the 5 steps on this, that, and the other. Just that you just need something really, really quickly. You got to be able to build those prompts. You got to be able to build those the ways to ask those things. I mean, I'm seeing it already, James, and I'm sure you are as well. There's people selling courses on how to do ChatGPT prompting. I mean, that feels a little early. But I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure they're going to make a little quick money. I think we see that on a lot of things, like when Amazon
Here's my
was
master class
first a
on,
thing.
yeah.
Right. When Amazon was first a thing, people were coming to us like, hey, can you guys have a course on this? I was like, no, we don't have a course on this. We'll just tell you about it and just, get on it and do it. But there was a lot of courses. These things change so quickly. Like, I can have a course ready to go and it's already past, so I think it's tough to really even, I know you say it's tough to predict and almost impossible to predict long term. I think it's happening so quickly, it's tough to predict the midterm.
Wow.
Short term, I think without being fearful of it, I think you just have to jump onto the things that will help you. So if you have trouble organizing yourself, you're a solopreneur, there's AI programs that allow you to do that, whether it's Notion or whether it's in, that URL that you had, I think it's Featured or whatever it is. has a way for you to align the different things. Like if
Yes.
you're in podcasting, jump on the podcasting thing. If you have trouble audio editing, there's a few. Just go to those. Don't try all the things, because you'll never have time to do the one thing, right? I think and so once you do that and you understand how to work, how to feed the brain, right? How to prompt those things, you can apply those to other things. And so it's tough to really even predict. I think it's happening so quickly, and there's just because everything was just it's pretty good. It's pretty exciting, and so I think a lot of people are in it, and we'll see. I mean, I don't know, that all of the imagery stuff. What is it? Midjourney and
Right.
Adobe Firefly and things like that. Those are fun, and I have fun creating some stuff, and I use them kind of in the Dealcaster stuff, more as backgrounds. I don't
Right.
use them verbatim, so to speak. Some stuff that's maybe on brand, and all of that. That stuff is getting so good. It's really, really scary how good some of that is. I mean, I look at some of the stuff on Midjourney, and it's incredible. You just type, put Messi and Anderson Silva on a beach making a sandcastle, and you're like, oh my God, that looks
Done.
awesome.
Right. Done. Yeah. Right. Is there. It's crazy.
Yeah.
That's yeah. I'm gonna pull up. No, I won't do that. I was gonna pull up some of the thumbnails that you used and that you created. The one from either yesterday or earlier today was just phenomenal. And I just, again, I need to step up my thumbnail game exponentially, like I said to you before we went online. But I want to put this comment up. Doug, thank you, man. Solid episode here with Mr. Stone. He's the one, right? Great tips and timely topics. So thank you for that,
Doug.
sir. Dr. Fuse, do you think there will be a slowdown or more of an overwhelm from people? A slowdown from what perspective, Jim? I guess, do you think there'll be a slowdown in terms of the iteration of AI tools, or a slowdown in the terms of adoption of AI tools? I personally don't think it's going to slow down at all. And there's pros and cons to that, right?
I think there's going to be skepticism. I think a lot of people, and I think there already is that, they're seeing these things. Like one of my clients, I talked to him the other day, and he wrote an entire book using ChatGPT.
Wow.
And threw it away.
Okay.
He just wanted to see if he could do it, and he did it, and he said it was pretty good. It wasn't too bad. And if he could do that, not really having that much knowledge about ChatGPT, but he could do that, I think we're almost going to be looking at something like you said earlier. Boy, that almost looks too good. So is that going to be, are we going to kind of go back then? Are we going to be like, okay, everything just seems too well written? I kind of want some side conversations here.
Yeah.
I want to go a little more organic. This feels a little bit too put together.
Yeah.
So.
Hopefully there'll be a decent happy medium, right? Again, we like concise, we like clarity. We are the age of social media where we have a 3-6 second attention span, especially for our youth. So we want to be very direct to the point, get the message, things of that nature. So if there's some tools, frameworks, and technologies that help us, as Jim is saying, integrate that into our workflow, it makes sense. Do it sparingly and do it appropriately. Chris, where can folks find you, man? You're everywhere, but where can folks find you if they want some of that cast ahead knowledge and some gems from you and some of that thumbnail magic, should I say?
Yeah, that thumbnail magic mostly is based in Canva. But I'm sure you see, and just sort of goes back to when you see these thumbnails all over the place. You can, if you're in Canva enough, you can see the ones that other people use, and you could tell it was from Canva, because all they did was just change the words around and maybe slap their picture on top of it. So it just sort of goes back to the AI standpoint, is like, it's one thing that you have this, beautiful graphic that a real artist put together and put in Canva because they work for Canva, but take it and really kind of make it your own. You can't really, you can't make it maybe as beautiful as a first starter or as it was intended, but you can always change things around. So anyway, to answer your question, you can find me at chrisstone.contact, and it takes you to that spot. So if you want to talk to me about putting together a show, or you want to, I don't know, connect with me on Pinterest, you can do that. But certainly I'm a co-host of Dealcasters with my buddy Jim Fuse, and we go live on Amazon and also do a podcast, and we help people through that mind junk of getting past that fear of the gear and get a show together. We started that show to we kept on having these conversations with all these people about, hey, what do you use for that? And what pair of headphones do I need? And, you keep on talking to me about sound treatment and how I speak into a microphone, all these things. And it was, quite frankly, a waste of our time because they weren't turning into clients. And so Jim and I knew we had to do a show as remote producers. And that's what we did. We did this when Amazon first started going live. And ever since then, we've had a ton of fun doing it. Fully did not expect to make very much money or have much influence, but it turned out to have a little of both. And so we work really hard to evangelize for this platform for other content creators, because we feel like the content overall on the platform could be better, and it certainly is a great way for content entrepreneurs to make a little money while they sleep.
I'm looking at all these people that you had on the show, and who do I got to talk to?
I know a guy. I know a guy that you could talk to.
Do you know a guy?
I think so. I think Focus Coffee should be on Amazon. That's what I think.
Well, the planner is on Amazon, but we can make the coffee on there too. I'm just saying, do it. Right? I can talk. Sure, I can talk whatever. Well,
I do have a rule that you can't be better looking than Jim Fuse if you're on the show. So I'm sorry.
I'll wear a hat.
You're not going to. Okay, that's better.
I'll wear a hat and I'll come unshaven. We'll make it happen. We'll make it happen. I want to acknowledge his last comment here, Roy. Good to see you, man. He says we need to be unique, just like everybody else.
Yes.
Need to be unique. I love that. Listen, man, this guy right here, I'm just going to put him on the screen by himself. Chris Stone, ladies and gentlemen. ChrisStone.contact is where you get him. Look at the color scheme. I mean, his office didn't look like that yesterday. All right. Or probably like an hour ago. I think he had, different brand colors, purple. And, I don't see the guitar. I don't see anything. But he is on point for our session today, right now. And I just
on your show, James, I had to do a little nip and tuck back here. Had to carve that out.
That's dope. I'm not gonna lie. That right there. That's okay. right there. I love it, man. Let's see. Jim's asking, are we going to podcast move it? If you're asking me, I'm not going this year. I got 2 kids in college, man. D1 schools. Let me tell you something. Yeah. We're doing okay with the Google checks on the 21st, which is always a good day of the month. But I have to pick and choose. So my next event is not till October, where I'm going to Massachusetts. Going to go hang out with the ECAM team.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go do that. Middle of October, so looking forward to that.
That Chris, reminds me, I sorry to interrupt, but no. Jim and I are doing an eCam event called Leap into Live Selling that's happening the 24th and 25th, I believe. Go to leapintolive.com. Registration is free, and Rocky Nash, Jeff C., Stephanie Garcia, Doc Rock, of course, Katie. There's just, it's an insane amount of people that are going to be doing 2 days, all about showing you how to do live selling, or as Jim and I like to call it, live solving. And that's what we're going to be talking about, and how we utilize eCam to do what we do on Amazon, and how you can utilize all of that stuff. So boy, I waited to the end to promote that. I should have done that earlier.
Yeah, but, we're not. Well, I guess we're sponsored. We're partnered with that kind of thing. I don't have their logo on this one, but I think I'm paying them more than they're paying me. But it's okay. I'll be drinking scotch with Glenn when we go to Massachusetts. So it's all good.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's all good, man. This was where it was at, man. This was a great
Thank you,
session.
man. This
I
is awesome.
appreciate you. Wanted to have you on for a long time, and still want to have other conversations. So I want to
Yeah.
say it while
Would
we're
love that.
recording. Don't want this to be one and done. Come into the digital collective community and have not just this one-on-one level conversation, but 201, 301 type of getting deeper
Honored.
into things of this nature. So, uh, what do you got going on today, man? You going out there and mess with the lawn guy or something to make sure he
Yeah, I'm gonna go yell at him. No,
okay?
no, I'm gonna chop it up. I've got some editing to do. That's a bit overdue. I got some videos, some shorts, to chop up. So yeah, I'm
There it
cranking it
is.
away on my MacBook.
There it is, folks. The life of a content creator, the life of a entrepreneur within this space. He's doing it by hand. He's doing it by mental capacity. He's taking advantage of AI. Use it appropriately, folks. That being said, y'all be good, and we'll see you next time.